Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Rabb, and I'll be presenting about what it's like living with EDS and MCAS. I first wanted to say that I have no conflicts of interest. I do write a non-monetized blog sharing my journey called A Rare Normal. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my story and my family's story with you. I live with a number of rare diseases, including EDS, mast cell disease, and dysautonomia. I spent the first 31 years of my life dealing with a variety of medical issues without truly understanding what was wrong. Until finally, when I was 6 months pregnant, down to eating only 3 foods and weighing less than 90 pounds, I received my mast cell activation syndrome diagnosis. In an instant, my life made sense. In time, I would learn about my other diagnoses of EDS dysautonomia. My son, who was born now 10 years ago, also lives with these same diseases, which my mother also lived with. While there was tremendous relief with finally having a diagnosis and a practitioner to work with all 3 of us, it was soon clear that this alone does not mean a cure is waiting, and there have and continue to be many challenges with my journey. My mast cells are overreactive and thus inappropriately activate from a variety of triggers. When mast cells activate, they cause allergic symptoms and sometimes anaphylaxis. As this infographic shows, there are endless things that can trigger mast cells and cause reaction, even in a simple walk through the park. Anything from foods, perfumes, insect stings, pollen, cleaning products, the sun, intense heat or intense cold, my own hormones, stress, and yes, even medications meant to help us. Each day is a balancing act of trying to avoid a reaction, never knowing what may set off my body or push me over the edge, just enough to create an emergency situation. As you can imagine, this makes functioning in the real world, among others, extremely challenging. I remember after the first appointment feeling so happy to have answers, but also both scared and sad of what this now meant for my future. The unknown and the unpredictability of my diseases weighed heavily, and I knew in that moment that my life would never look the same again. Gone were the days of spontaneous adventures, of live music or large parties and travel. Suddenly, my pre-diagnosed life left me and my husband to reimagine our future together. In the big ways, this meant a move to the suburbs, transitioning to work from home, and finding drivable locations to vacation. In small ways, it defines our day-to-day life entirely, even still today. What foods are allowed in our home, what soaps and cleaners we use, what fabrics I can wear, and the list goes on. I no longer live freely, but daily weigh the risk of everything in my life, what I do, who I see, and even what foods I put in my mouth. And yet, even though so much of my life has changed, my fight for healing has never waned. Over the last decade, I have lost count of the number of new medications I have trialed, hoping each time that that would be the cure. Early on, it became clear that the excipients and medications were a large trigger for me, and I now have to compound all of my medications to avoid a reaction. That alone, however, does not ensure success. I have spent hours with my practitioners determining what new treatment or medication to try next. And with each new medicine, I'm always extremely hopeful and positive that this will be the one that changes my life. I remember one day I arrived at my allergist's office determined that the next medicine would not make me react, as if my own will could make it true. I took the medication, told my doctor I would just push through the symptoms that I had started to feel, and then soon realized that no amount of willful thoughts could control my mast cells. I walked to the back just in time to share that I felt I was about to pass out, and she quickly prepared injectable medications to administer and stop the reaction. I have lost count of how many times we have done this together, her calm voice reminding me to breathe as I waited out the reaction and for me to improve. And after I would recover, before I would go home, we would talk about what comes next. Because if I don't even try, I won't find things to work. Thankfully, in the last decade, I have found things that I have had success with, medications that have allowed me to live more freely and find ways to heal, finding my version of normal, which I am so grateful for. But this is not just about my story, but also my mom's, who lived with the same chronic diseases. In the spring of 2016, the unimaginable happened. She died of complications of her diseases when they ran out of options of new medications or treatments to try. When her body spiraled out of control, and in a matter of weeks, she was gone. She fought every second of her life to stay with us longer, never once thinking she would die from these diseases. These diseases that we are told are chronic, but are not supposed to kill us. And yet they killed her, and she died because science had not caught up in time to save her. It has been 7.5 years since she passed away, and as I grieved, I knew I needed to be part of the fight for a cure, or at the very least help to ensure a better future for others, for myself and for my son. In this time, I know science has progressed, as has our understanding of these diseases. And yet I also know too many in our community who have still passed away too soon. This is why I'm here today to honor my mom, to honor those who we have lost, because we still did not know. New research and treatment options are needed so that no one else has to lose their mother, their grandmother, or Mimi, as my son called her. I know if she were alive today, she too would be here using our family story to raise awareness and hopefully inspire meaningful change. I am here today in her honor, still forever hopeful for healthier tomorrows and longer futures for us all.